Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this cabinet meeting, Monday, the 2nd of February, 26. And the first item on the agenda is apologies for absence, and we have apologies from Councillor Callum Ringer. The second item on the agenda, two sets of minutes. First is the 5th of January. Were there any questions on that set of minutes, 5th of January? If not, I'll propose that they're accepted. Seconded by Councillor Toyin. All those in favour, please. Yeah, that's unanimous. Yeah. And the second set of minutes is the 19th of January. Again, were there any questions? Words of clarification on the minutes of the 19th of January? If not, I'll propose that they are accepted. Seconded by Councillor Boyle. And all of those in favour, please. Wasn't him. Okay, yeah, so otherwise unanimous. Thank you. There are no public questions or statements, which is item 3, and item 4, there are no items of urgent business. Item 5 is declarations of interest and request for dispensations. Were there any interest declarations that anyone wished to make? No. Item 6 is member questions. Just ask Service Cloyd, is there anything we should ask at this stage? No. Item 7 is recommendations from the recent overview and scrutiny committee. I understand them may.
Thank you, Chair. Because of the time frame, it wasn't really time for recommendations. We got some feedback.
Right.
Do you want to hear it now, or do you want to have it at another time?
Feedback on regarding what? Sorry.
Well, it's feedback on the budget.
Okay.
Yep.
Obviously, what we always prefer is for that to be in writing. And I appreciate that hasn't been possible,
Okay,
in terms of
fine.
time scale. But it's obviously difficult to accept anything unless it's in writing. But go ahead.
It's okay. Adam can send it to you in writing.
Sure.
If you prefer. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Item 8 is the capital strategy. And Councillor Shires, go ahead.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Apologies that this is my most exciting meeting, but I understand that not everybody will feel quite as excited about it as I am. So if we look at, I know we've run through them one by one, but all the papers that I bring today all interlink. So it's important to understand how that happens, because we're going to discuss the capital strategy, but then we need to make sure that we understand that the capital bids and the current capital programme link into that as well. So rather than it being one giant document, we go through it, but understand that when we talk about this paper, we're also talking about the revenue budget at the same time. So all in all, this is a standard budget that comes through a standard report that comes through every year. So I just want to thank officers again for it. There's nothing in there that has significantly changed overall. I think it clearly sets out where we are and what we're going to do and what we may need to do. So if anybody has questions on it, please do ask, and I'm grateful for officers in the room who will be able to answer any questions of a technical nature.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Shires. Were there any questions in respect of the capital strategy? Now, also just to reiterate my thanks as well. Appreciate there's a significant amount of efforts that go into the development and detail of these documents every year, not least this one, of course, as well. So just again, were there any questions in respect of this? Okay, I've got Councillor Cushing first of all, and then
yeah, actually just a simple point of clarification. On page 20, the bottom table has got capital contributions. Can you remind me what that actually is, please?
It's page 20, did you say? We're talking about the £20,000 for the current financial year, is that correct? Oh, no, yeah, sorry, I'm looking further down. Yeah. That's correct.
Uh, yeah, so capital contributions will cover things such as 106 contributions and its sort of various other pots of money that isn't covered in those other categories there. So 106 is an example of that.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Holiday, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I see on page 21 that the proportion of financing cost to net revenue stream is increasing. Are there any thoughts about that? That's the top 9.6 on page 21 in the paper version.
Sorry, what do you mean by thoughts on?
Well, the ratio of the proportion of financing cost to net revenue stream is increasing. And the financing cost is increasing and the expected net revenue stream is staying fairly, it's going up a little bit, but the proportion is increasing. Isn't this an indicator of affordability, as it says in the paragraph?
Okay, so now I understand where you're coming from. So, I mean, I guess it depends on how you look at affordability. So where we are undertaking programs of capital works, they are affordable, whether or not it comes through internal borrowing, grants or external borrowing. Is what you're indicating that we will be looking to make repayments on borrowing which are increasing?
Right, so you're saying that it's higher because we're paying back more. Is that
So
correct?
that's what the MRP is. It's how we calculate what will come out of revenue in terms of repayment. So if we're planning on borrowing more, then the repayment will increase because we'll have borrowed more. Don will add more technicality to that.
Thank you. Yes, it is a reflection of more of the capital programme is not funded by grants. So where we have spent capital monies using borrowing or even internal borrowing or external borrowing, we are obliged to make a minimum revenue provision contribution. So you can think of it along the lines of a repayment mortgage, that element of the repayment mortgage, but it's not real cash. So it creates a reserve that could be used to fund the original loan payment or nominal loan payment. So the fact that it's increasing will be related to the existing programme.
Just a quick follow-up, if I may. Is there a benchmark for this, say with a comparable council?
So are you looking to understand the borrowing or proposed borrowing limits of other councils?
I'm just interested because it says this is presumably required of us, and I'm just interested what it would be for other organisations similar to ours.
Well, I would hope that other organisations would publish their budget in quite such a manner. The MRP is something that every council refers to the same as. I think if we look at potentially our county colleagues, their MRP may be quite a lot larger than ours. But it depends entirely on level of borrowing internally, externally proposed across other organisations. So I guess what you're asking is, what are other councils doing in borrowing for capital?
No, I wouldn't presume to be so granular as that. I'm just interested to know if we're way off, how this compares to other organisations such as ours. Find a point and we can take it offline. I don't want to waste your morning discussing this.
We can investigate and respond offline.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions in respect of the capital strategy? If not, the recommendation is that this is recommended to full council, what is recommended to full council, the capital strategy is approved. Is that proposed? I'm happy to second and take a vote of all of those in favour, please. Is that yeah. Yeah, okay, thank you. And that's unanimous. So the following item, item 9, is the Treasury Management Strategy, and that's Councillor Shires again.
Of course, thank you. So obviously, as you're aware, all the papers interlink. This just talks about how we manage the cash that we have. You will see in there that some of the tables look similar to the capital strategy, and some of the tables will look similar throughout. This is just how we separate them for informative purposes. The Treasury Management Strategy has been possibly a far more exciting paper to take to committees in the previous year, more than anything, in the year before potentially. But this is the first time it's been looked at as the capital strategy. So we haven't had pre-scrutiny on these papers. The information is set out. It's the standard format. If there's anything in there that anybody would like any further information on, obviously we've got officers in the room for technical questions, but I'm happy to propose it.
Okay, were there any questions on the Treasury Management Strategy? Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I haven't had a chance to check on this, but has this gone to BRAC before coming here?
So as Councillor Shires has just informed the meeting, there hasn't been pre-scrutiny of this particular item. Is it going to Governance Risk and Audit Committee at a later date? Yeah, yeah. So it's going there next.
Thank you.
Okay. So the recommendation is to recommend to full council that the Treasury Management Strategy for 26-27 is approved. Is that proposed? Yeah, and can I have a seconder, please? Yeah, Councillor Blathwaite, and all of those in favour. And that's unanimous. Thank you. Item 10 is the non-domestic rates policy. Councillor Shires again.
Thank you. This was spoken about at Overview and Scrutiny Committee, but not in the anticipation of this policy, but with some of the changes that central government are making to business rates and the relief that some organisations, some sectors of business do get. So as a result of that, before I step into the paper, I just want to assure businesses that we are collectively doing as much as we can to ensure that every business knows what's available. Councillor Toy's team work hard in that arena, and I've spoken to Officer Knight, who is going to make sure that we do a media push to make sure that we know that we're reaching as many people as possible. I know it's quite a difficult and uncertain time for many businesses out there at the moment. So there are many rates reliefs that come up. The government are changing many, it feels like, in the coming year. So I'm going to just give an outline of where we are. When Cabinet last saw this, we hadn't had the information about pubs and live music events, so there's a little update there coming. So if an organisation occupies a property on which it pays national non-domestic rates, it may be eligible for up to 100% discretionary rates relief if it's operated within some or all of the guidelines shown as outlined in this policy. The guidelines for determining relief are not intended to be a rigid set of rules. Neither are all the guidelines applicable to every organisation. Each case is judged on its merits, taking into account the contribution which each organisation or business makes to the district's amenities and its residents' lifestyles and well-being. The government announced a new 10-year 100% relief for eligible electronic vehicle charging points and electric vehicle only forecourts to start from the 1st of April 2026. I'm sure my colleague Councillor Volley will be very pleased about that. These properties will be identified in the new VOA and will be fully funded by Section 13 grant. The Retail, Hospitality and Leisure Business Rates Relief Scheme did provide eligible retail, hospitality and leisure properties with 40% relief, which was previously 50 and 75. From the 1st of April, this will be replaced by 2 lower multipliers. The new mandatory multipliers are based on occupation of the business, not the VOA description. And we will provide updates throughout the year to Cabinet. And we will be provided with compensation for loss of income as a result of these changes. In line with government, we have updated the discretionary rate relief policy to end this relief from the 1st of April 2026. The small business rates relief is government funding to local authorities so that we can provide relief to businesses that have had a rateable value increase from the 1st of April caused by the reevaluation. And as a consequence of that reevaluation, have lost the small business rates relief, rural rates relief, or the RHL relief. So this is what was talked about at Overview and Scrutiny Committee. So this relief will be capped at a higher of £800 or the relevant transitional relief cap from the 1st of April this year and will apply for 3 years. The previous scheme was due to end on the 31st of March. However, it's been extended for another year. So the issue that was raised at Overview and Scrutiny Committee, where valuations are pushing business rates up and businesses are not feeling that they can manage with that, there is something in place for that. And that again is, it will be delivered by us through discretionary powers. There is the discretionary government scheme for film studio relief, which started on the 1st of April 2025, will continue at its 40% until 2034, although we don't have any film studios currently. I'm sure if anybody did want to come north, they'd be very happy about it. The pubs and live music venues relief. This is the newer one that was given a week ago, potentially. So 27th of January, the government announced the 27th of January that in the coming financial year, eligible pubs and live music venues will benefit from a 15% business rates relief on top of the support announced in the budget 2025. Bills will be frozen in real term for a further 2 years. So we're just on the cusp of completing our NNDR1. So we're not forecasting the figures yet, but the team have forecast that we believe the total relief for 25, 26, 27 will be in the region of 161,000. They're unconfirmed as of yet, so they are purely an estimation. And then finally, on top of the recommendations, just a quick update from our revenues team that at the end of November, they had collected 72.75% of council tax, which was 80.41 million, and 75.58% of non-domestic business rates at 23.63 million. So a huge thank you to the team for working so incredibly hard to collect the money that this council relies on to deliver services.
Brilliant. Thank you, Councillor Shires. I think Councillor Twine is indicated.
Thank you. Firstly, I think we can see that it's quite a complex thing, the non-domestic business rates, which is rapidly changing. So I'm grateful to Officer Knight and his team for actively supporting us. Of course, businesses need to connect with us, the revenues team, so that we can try and help them through this system. If we don't know, then we can't do it. But when we do find someone and we can take that to their team, they're incredibly supportive, and I'm really grateful for that. And obviously for my team, we do carry out as many business visits as we can to try and identify businesses. This last week, visiting pubs as well, just to try and get the view from them. And there are more challenges than just rates. I think we need to understand that. You know, some of the pricing schemes around how cheap beer is in a supermarket compared to in a pub is a real challenge when they're trying to give us a very different environment. But yeah, and there's a cheaper way for people to have their alcohol. But yeah, obviously, there's no more to say. I think Councillor Shires has gone through it comprehensively. But yes, if people feel that rates may be something that there's an opportunity, then they need to contact either myself or the business rates team, and we'd be pleased to help them wherever we can. Thank you. Oh, and I'm happy to second as well. So
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Councillor Tory. And you know, likewise, I find the service very helpful from our staff members whenever there's an inquiry from across the district or indeed from my own ward. So yeah, certainly would support what you've said there. Were there any other questions on this paper? If not, the recommendations are set out, 1, 2 and 3, which are recommended points for the council, full council meeting to agree in terms of the delegated authorities, hardship relief and rate relief policy. So that was proposed and seconded. Can I take a vote of those all in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Penultimate item from Councillor Shires, the draft revenue budget.
Yes, so I want to thank Cabinet really for working with me and officers to ensure that we have ended up in a place where we have a balanced budget. I want to thank officers from across the council for the work that they've done, not only with this budget, but over the last 2 years, where we have worked incredibly hard to realise efficiency, to meet budget challenges, and to support our residents who have found themselves in dreadful situations of homelessness, which has been something that we never wish to see our residents in, but we have risen to the challenge financially through the temporary accommodation schemes that we've been running to try and support residents. So a huge thank you to everybody that's involved in that. And it doesn't mean whether or not you're picking up the phone to answer a call from a resident, we're all still working for the same thing, and that's delivery for North Norfolk. So a huge thank you to everybody who's been involved. So we this individual paper has been to Overview and Scrutiny Committee last Wednesday. There was a request that there was some more background information added to just more scene setting stuff, which I'd given verbally, and Officer McCallum had given verbally. That has been done not for this paper, but for the Overview and Scrutiny Committee paper. So whilst there was no recommendation given in writing, that was feedback that I took away from the committee that's already been implemented. So that will be seen in the Overview and Scrutiny papers. So there are a number of recommendations here. The recommendation that I wanted to lead with is recommendation 3, and that is the use of the Communities Reserve. We had paused it in the 24-25 budget. That reserve was used for the Sustainable Communities Fund. Publicly, I'd said it was only a pause, and with the work of officers and the input from council, from cabinet colleagues, we will be releasing this reserve as a local member fund. Now, that doesn't mean that we're giving local members money in their bank accounts. That's not how we operate, as much as there are MPs across the county who would like to believe that that's potentially what happens with the local members fund. So my suggestion, with the support of Officer McCallum, is that we create a cross-party working group so that we can agree the purpose and governance around grant awards. And then we would ensure that governance is maintained through a 4-person panel of 2 members, a legal officer and a finance officer, to meet monthly to oversee the proposed awards. So that is where we are right now. So that is option 3. That's recommendation 3, sorry. Recommendation 2 is the creation of an earmarked reserve to mitigate the revenue costs of local government reorganisation. We're not being funded to reorganise Norfolk. The government have decided that they wish for us to do it, but we shall fund it ourselves. So the purpose of this fund is to allow us some flexibility. Officer McCallum gave a far wonderful explanation as to the detail of the fund out of the scrutiny committee, but its very purpose is to ensure that we can continue to operate and deliver for North Norfolk whilst we are undertaking local government reorganisation, which obviously we are embarking upon, although we've had no additional information from government, as I am aware. Cabinet will be very aware that we have spent countless hours previously working on savings and efficiencies and income generation. And I would just like to thank Cabinet colleagues for rising to the challenge every meeting, I would say, about how we're spending money. And the reason that we are sitting here today without a spreadsheet full of savings is because the efficiency and the savings mechanisms that we've put in place are now day to day. So we had to do quite a lot of work, but officers are now working continuously on a daily basis to ensure that we're going to get to year end in a great financial position. So the shift culturally across the organisation is more about budget isn't done in February, it's done day to day. And I think that's been a huge task. So a big thank you to all officers who may have got tired of us talking about budget and finance, but have met us so marvellously that we're not sitting here today with a list of decisions that we don't particularly want to make, but we're having to anyway. We have also found ourselves in the position where we are part of a very special group of councils who, through the unfair funding review, have found us in the 95% club. And that is 90% of guaranteed funding. And that includes putting up council tax as well. So our core spending power is guaranteed to not drop below 95%. And that's what the promise is from the government. And we have that promise for 3 years. So where we have seen that we've made significant changes locally, we also note that the government have changed how they deliver funding nationally, removing funding from shire districts such as ours in favour of metropolitan boroughs and much needed adult social services, obviously, but it's affected shire districts slightly more so. I think the overall reduction over the next 3 years from the 24-25 budget is about 23% per head. So it's a real terms reduction for North Norfolk. Under 2.5, I believe there's an explanation of how the funding review has changed for us. The other point that I wanted to just cover overall is we've obviously had the pressures from rising homelessness across the district, and we've met to meet that need and figure out how we can support families to actually re-embed into communities and recover from the pressures of homelessness. And Councillor Boyle is looking to have some money to spend on temporary accommodation in the coming years, which is beneficial. So we have that pressure, and we know that pressure on a daily basis that will exist. We also have the additional pressure of food waste coming, and we've had very public conversations about the funding of food waste in all aspects, and how the government have grossly miscalculated how much it costs. So whilst this year we're not in a position of significant concern, we may find ourselves in difficult positions financially in coming years if the government choose not to fund food waste accordingly. Aside from that, you will see we have the capital bids at the back. That's possibly the most exciting part for everybody, because they can see the tangible side of it. The medium-term financial strategy sits at the back as a separate item.
Yeah.
So the only thing that I wanted to link over from the medium-term financial strategy into the budget is where in the medium-term financial strategy, you'll see how small a share of money that we do take from our council tax. We'd always said we're on about 8%. 8% of council tax comes into North Norfolk District Council. We are the collecting authority for town and parish councils, the Police and Crime Commissioner and Norfolk County Council. Last year, we saw our share drop to 7.4%, a 6% drop over the overall. Where town and parish councils were taking 3.6, the Police and Crime Commissioner were taking 14.1, and the County Council were taking 74.9%. We won't know until everybody set their budgets this year and agreed their budgets as to how that percentage may change. But it would be quite fair for members to use the 7.4% figure when discussing it with town and parish councils. This isn't going to be the last time you're going to hear me talk about the budget, but I'll be quiet for now because I've got 2 more meetings to talk about it.
Well, I think it's quite interesting actually that the proportion, the overall amount of council tax we get, it's shrinking, whilst our responsibilities are growing. So we've obviously seeing the currently, as it stands, mandated introduction of food waste, which is terribly underfunded, really not thought through at all. That well, I just don't think they understand the implications of mandating this and how such a service is delivered in a large rural area. I don't think that's understood in Whitehall at all. But of course, we've seen the parish council element increase. We've seen a marginal increase in the police element, whilst the other two are of course starting to reduce over time. And of course, there's been no increase in parish council responsibilities in that time. So it is something just to sort of reflect on, without a doubt. I think I'd also just like to say again, thank you for all the work at this juncture. It's a challenging landscape this year, particularly with it feels like the government really sort of have contempt for rural, or I should possibly at least say non-metropolitan, non-Labour held authorities, if I can get away with saying that, even given the funding settlement that has been arrived at. So despite that, we've obviously made sure we're in the best position possible. And hopefully, as long as there are no significant shocks to the system, unknowns, things that the government announce in about 2 months' time, we will hopefully be without any significant service reduction over the course of the year. Is there anyone else wishes to add? Councillor Toy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, it's actually rare that I'll say anything political. I like to work cross-party and get consensus, but I went to an APSI meeting in Birmingham recently about economic growth, and it is very clear this current government does not understand the rural piece. No matter how you look at the data, where you get it from, they do not understand the cost of running rural services. Obviously, through that organisation, we're trying to bring things together, and hopefully some representatives that are doing the study will come here and we can put that, and we're trying to put a case to push back to government and say, look, you really need to understand. That's the best we can do, I guess, at this time, but we will keep knocking on their door. But I'd like to, it's great, you know, and absolutely it's right that we do the homelessness piece and that there, but I just wanted to remind ourselves that actually we're still supporting the visitor economy, we're still delivering non-statutory services, and North Norfolk is still a great place to be. Yeah, I always like to keep that positive note, and that actually through this sort of historical prudence that we've had to deliver stuff, that we're actually still able to do that despite the challenges, which I thank officers for supporting us in doing that and understanding our ambitions and coming forward. But if it's not been seconded, I'll do that again as well, Mr. Chairman. Happy to.
That's why I just to reiterate your point, really, we're certainly distinctive as local authorities go in terms of the discretionary provision that we've managed to maintain. Obviously, this year we're reaching 125 years of Premier Pier. I won't repeat the statistics on public toilets, but you know, we've got a lot compared to other local authorities, outdoor spaces, blue flag beaches, green flag country parks, work being done on that at this time to ensure we keep those green flags, and obviously ongoing improvement every year, improvement in the provision to ensure that occurs. And following the completion of Fakenham Leisure Centre, of course, we'll be one of the very few authorities to have more than one leisure centre swimming pool. In fact, we'll have 3. So it's there's quite a lot we provide compared to many other authorities, both for our residents, our leisure officer, but also our economy in terms of the visitor economy. We've also got obviously a lot of obligations to maintain that property, and that is of course reflected in the capital budget throughout, and has been every year. Of course, you know, we know the areas of the district where we own the most property, and some of this obviously is a cause for conversation, but quite often it's just the reality of what needs repairing next. So that is certainly reflected within the capital budget, but of course we've got things such as the investment in play equipment that are designed to do that and improve other discretionary assets and services as well. So certainly, you know, reiterate the concern over food waste and where we go in future. That's something obviously we're keen to see the government address in terms of certainly the money they're providing for depot costs and around the service provision, because it's really left rural authorities in a very challenging position. I'm trying to think, was it Shropshire? Where was it? Shropshire. Certainly been very vociferous about the position in recent days, and we certainly need to ensure it makes sense both financially and that it's, you know, we're not selling ourselves a pub essentially. Okay, I've got Councillor Cushing and then Councillor Withington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just like to reiterate the points that both Councillor Shires and you have made about the appalling discrimination against Norfolk in terms of the funding review. I'm absolutely convinced the Labour Party see Norfolk as nothing more than a flat area in which to smother with solar panels, and so I think we are really, it's absolutely disgraceful what they're doing. In many respects, it's harder to deliver services in a large rural area than it would be in many respects in metropolitan areas. Another point I would like to point out, now I do agree with the need to put money aside for local government reform, but the point I'm going to make, as you know, I'm inherently hostile to it. I'm absolutely convinced when it's actually delivered, our services will be worse and our council tax will be a lot higher. And the point is that £750,000, which is not being spent on coastal erosion, not being spent on housing, and a whole long list of other things that we would like to see that money being spent on. And when you replicate that across Norfolk, every council will be putting money aside. God knows how much the county council has to put aside when all these councils are hard pressed at the moment to do what they're meant to be doing. So I think that's a point that does need to be drawn out in terms of that. I do have a technical question, if I may, Councillor Shires, on page 103, line 3, we've got service delivery has gone up by 1.6 million. I couldn't see what that increase is in respect of. Could clarify that, please.
So the in service delivery 1.3 million. Yes.
Well, column C is
Okay, marvellous. So Appendix B outlines. Yes, it is. So page 117. I think that's appendix. Is that the first page for Appendix B? And Appendix B follows, so it gives the breakdown of detail there. Hopefully there's enough detail to answer your question.
If the answer's there, then I will look in there and try and ferret it out. Then if I've got any more questions, I'll come back to you on that.
Thank you.
Officer McCullum, sorry.
Vast majority of that is less transparent in the public papers, but it's the 1.3 million that for a part year domestic food waste collection service, growth in revenue budgets year on year. The reason why it just says it's a footnote in one of the pages in Appendix B, and I can refer you to that. It just says growth in environmental services because we haven't agreed the final price with our provider, and if we highlighted that's how much that we'd accepted their offer, then they would cease negotiating in good faith. So officers are actively working on reducing that 1.3 million for a part year service. That's only for 7 months.
Reflection that there's lots of moving parts here and they change even during the course of the work that we're doing in respect of this. Hundreds of individual items, and you can't obviously plan for all of them with the absolute accuracy that you would desire to do. And I just wanted to reiterate what you in fact said, Christopher, around the £750,000 for local government reorganisation. It's something we're being obviously told to do is pay for the costs of reorganisation, and going back to my previous point, in addition to providing additional services and with less financial support to do so. So it's really a very unpalatable position that the government are putting both ourselves and other councils in. And I would also rather that the time, effort and financial and other resource effort goes into the areas of fundamental reform in local government that are actually needed around social care. And we know we've got lots of overspends around children's services, significant foster care costs, lots of privateering from the private sector, profiteering, I should say, not privateering, from the private sector in respect of those costs. There's all sorts of things that could be done with some government help that would actually reduce the ongoing costs in the long run and actually improve people's lives, improve the services people receive. and therefore reduce those problems, demand, and that's the key thing. If we can reduce that demand in the long run, we'll reduce the ongoing cost as well. So it's not the focus that I wanted to see, of course, and this whole scale reorganisation was not in the manifesto. It wasn't what perhaps people voted for, but I think again it's a reflection of the government's understanding of how large rural areas work, and large geography like Norfolk. So of course we're in the position, this is what we've got to do, and I think we can certainly demonstrate we've been putting a lot of time and effort into local government reorganisation. Yes, it certainly has been quite a slog, but we've got to do much more yet. Okay. Any other questions? Oh, sorry, Councillor Withington, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to reiterate what Councillor Toy said about the importance of our visitor economy and broader local economy, because that's the way that we keep people in their homes when they've got good salaries, good wages and secure jobs. And going back to what Councillor Cushing's just said about that 750k, we've been, as an authority, we're very good at bringing in extra money for grant funding and etc. And I think the Town Ambition programme's been an excellent example of that, of getting money out to our business economy. And that 750k, a good chunk of that could have possibly, supported some of our more vulnerable businesses at the moment. And, in reality, what does it do? It could buy 3 or 4 more temporary accommodation places. So it's, it's not just a piece of money that can be thrown out into the ether and won't impact on our area. And that brings me to how we are dealing with homelessness. And I think we, again, we are bringing in lots of money in terms of extra grant funding, and we're using the council second homes premium very wisely to support us with that. But we have teams working across the authority with, community outreach through the health and wellbeing partnerships. We're working really well in partnership to maximise what we can do. And I think that's reflected in this budget, in that we aren't having to put in additional money or lose services that would be doing that. So I think, as an authority, we need to recognise that work that's been done. And I certainly appreciate it in my role as Health and Wellbeing Partnership Chair, that I can see the impact that's happening. So, I think in that respect, I'm, very content with this budget, even if I don't like some of the places some of the money's got to go to.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Withington. Any other points? If not, we have the recommendation set out in the paper, items 1 to 6, and they have been proposed and seconded, proposed by Councillor Shires and seconded by Councillor Toy, or indicated you've held his seconding for now. So can we take a vote of all of those in favour, please? And that's unanimous. Okay, final item from yourself, Councillor Shires, medium-term financial strategy.
Thank you very much. The medium-term financial strategy sets where we are over the coming years. I'm absolutely delighted that the format of the report hasn't been changed. I think it's the only report that we've ever sent to Overview and Scrutiny Committee, which has ticked all the boxes. So a huge thank you to Officer King for the work that was done on that. Obviously, this sets out everything that we've spoken about throughout the budget setting, throughout this meeting, the local, the national pressures. So this is really the context as behind why we are making the decisions that we're making financially. So a huge thank you again to everybody that's taken the time to have input into these documents. So the MTFS didn't go to Overview and Scrutiny on Wednesday, but I believe it will go with the budget papers when we're there on the 11th.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, well, welcome everything that's been done here. It's a very nicely presented document, actually, I've got to say, and lots of rich layers of detail. I think actually it's an introductory piece to what we do and how we do it. It's actually quite, it's not a bad starting point if you're new to this. But yeah, it's there's a breadth of detail there, which very good, very appreciable. Okay, were there any questions on this item from any member? If not, I believe this has just been noted. Is that correct? Sorry, it doesn't say so on my agenda paper. Yeah, that was my understanding. Thank you. So item 13, nice and straightforward, the lease renewal at Haysborough. Councillor Blathwaite, go ahead.
Yes, can I recommend that we approve this? It's just a piece of housekeeping, really. The foreshore at Haysborough is famous for its difficulties, and if we are to carry on helping Haysborough as we are, we need to get this settled. And just to say that possibly that this is even more important following Minister Hardy's statement on last Wednesday morning. So it enables us to do our work and carry on doing our work on the coast. So please, if we could pass this, I would appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, I take that as a proposer, and that's seconded by Councillor Varley. But before I take that second, is there any questions? Are there any questions on this item? If not, then can we take a vote of all of those in favour, please? And that is unanimous. Item 14 is the Neatishead Conservation Area Appraisal. Councillor Brown.
Morning, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, this is in effect a sort of a ratifying process by ourselves to support the Broad Authority, who adopted this management plan and conservation area appraisal and management plan for the say back in May last year. And it's good to see that a neighbourhood plan, well, conservation plan, should I say, is coming forward. And we're not the only ones carrying out appraisals as we did in the Glaving Valley some time ago. So in order to create this as what would become a material consideration in the planning process, the Broads Planning Authority, I recommend that we support it, and I propose that this morning. And I suspect my colleague to my left might want to second that.
I've already voted for this at the Broads Authority. Am I allowed to?
I would suggest probably not then. If you can, if we can take that as a declaration of interest, because you can't vote twice, obviously. But thank you for that. Councillor Toy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Firstly, to say, again, it's another thing that we're not properly funded and supported for. We were given these conservation areas, and whilst this isn't in our area, the last one we did was the Glaving Valley. I've got some that have never had one done and some that are way behind. However, we are where we are, and I'm obviously in favour of conservation area appraisals and happy to second this.
Yeah. So Varley, sorry.
Councillor Toy, best me to the seconding there, but it's fantastic to see this document come forward this morning. Neatishead holds a very special place in my heart, having lived round the eastern part of the district all of my life. It's really good to see the policies coming forward and how this will shape planning decisions going forward. So I really do support this. Fantastic work. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I speak as one of two local members covering this matter. So I just really wanted to mention that I'm appreciative of the work that the Broads Authority has done in the preparation of this, and we are minded, I think, to support this. And certainly from my own perspective, although my colleague, Councillor Gerard Mancini Boyle, normally covers those two villages. I am mindful that what's proposed is I think in their best interests, and I'm content to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, any further thoughts? So yeah, certainly welcome all the work that's been done. No mean feat actually to do a conservation area appraisal. So we have the two recommendations which have been proposed and seconded. And can we take, well, a vote of in favour? We've got one abstention. Can we take a vote of all those otherwise in favour, please? Yeah, and that is all but one. Thank you. So item 15 is delegated decisions between November and December. So obviously, you can see the items this covers. Firstly, the temporary appointment of parish councillors, which until the recent by-election was in Trimmingham, and then items related to the Overstrand Coast Protection Scheme, Coastwise activity. Were there any questions on this item, on either of these items, I should say? Councillor Holiday.
Thank you, Chair. I think we've talked about this before in some forum, but there aren't figures attached to each of these decisions, and I wondered if that was for any reason. Thank you.
I don't recall us committing to putting a financial a commitment to put financial elements to the decisions. Not all of them are always financial, I should say, but which one is it? Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So it's the second item, isn't it? That where there is a financial element. And that is obviously reported against the relevant capital budget heading, as a matter of course. But obviously, if you've got any questions about the detail, we can take a deeper dive at some point in future if you'd like. Okay. So those are for noting and subject, of course, to any questions. No further questions. Okay, if not, then so we have no need to exclude members of the public or press, and there is no private business. So thank you everyone for your attendance at today's cabinet meeting.